What's happening, guys? How are we? Coach Chris here, and I'm going to bring you this week's Corner Talk. So this week, what I want to talk about is the 5 biggest mistakes I see every day in the gym with people when they fight on the inside. So the first mistake that I see people make when they get on the inside is not knowing how to position their body when they get there. So the easiest thing that you need to do, once you get up close with your opponent, make sure that you push your hips back. So you want to be nice and close to your opponent, yes, so you can smother, you can catch their work. But what happens too often is people get too close, their hips get too close to their opponent. Therefore, they've got no workspace through the middle. So when you get yourself lined up next to your opponent, just push your hips back slightly. Still keep the rest of your body in position, push the hips back, and that allows you space on the inside to be able to get your shots off. So the second issue that I see so often when you're on the inside is people try and hit too hard. So you get so happy that you get on the inside, all you start to do is wing shots around the side, big haymakers, big hooks around the side. Now, all they're doing is hitting gloves and hitting elbows, and you risk yourself gassing out and you risk hitting your hands on your opponent's elbows and they hurt. Yeah, so the best thing to do when you're on the inside, not to hit as hard as you possibly can, look for small little gaps, look for small little openings on the inside, or use your steps to get round the opponent and push subtle little shots through the middle. You watch the great fighters on the inside. People like Roberto Duran, one of my favorite fighters of all time, and Ricky Hatton. Watch how they use little setup shots to move around the opponent to then land their big power shots. Don't just get standing still and start winging up your shots, because you're going to burn your energy and you're going to hurt your hands for no real reward. So the third mistake that I see people make a lot of the time when they're fighting on the inside is knowing where to put their head. What we don't see is we don't know where to put our head when we're on that inside. So we end up keeping it square and punching from there. Now that shot down the middle is always going to be there, and we're always going to get caught with punches. So the thing I want you to work on is to make sure that you put your head on a different side. So you have a different head slot. So we're either sitting on the right shoulder or we're sitting on that left shoulder, but we're moving our head to each different side. If our head's on the right, it gives us very clear vision of what our opponent's throwing, and it allows us to come up the middle with shots. Nice and short, use our arms, head slots nice and safe, we're protected. We're on the other side, head's on the left, on the opponent's right shoulder if it's an orthodox boxer, and then you've got short little shots on the inside. So we're moving our head after we punch, and then we're finding a different slot for it every time. Lovely, right. So the fourth thing that I see so often when people are fighting on the inside is not having the patience to pick the gaps with their shots, or not having the ability to move around the target and find those little gaps. Yeah, what happens? We all stand in close and we all start, like I said before, winging in those big shots. Now, the best thing that you can do is to try and be composed, try and tuck up with a few shots, and as your opponent's throwing, that's when you want to shoot little shots through the middle. They're the shots that are going to hurt most of the time, more than these big winging hooks that go around the side. So if your opponent's punching with you, have a look, catch a few shots, boom, poke a shot through the middle. Change your angle, poke a shot through the middle. Just little lever shots. If you followed the videos from last week, you'll see that I step back as well. So don't be afraid to switch back, bring a shot through the middle. That's a shot that I've used a lot during sparring, and it's hurt a lot of people. It's a very unexpected punch. Little step back, poke through the middle. Very, very unexpected, very, very hard to defend. So don't be afraid to just take your time, catch shots, poke little shots through the middle. When your opponent is throwing and engaging, that's when they're vulnerable, because they're not in this tight, braced position. They're exchanged. Yeah, they're in that position. They're open. A little shot will hurt way more than a big bowling hook round the side. And then the last thing that I want to talk about today, the last thing that I see, the biggest issue that I see with people sparring, and especially novice boxers, is trying to prove how strong you are on the inside. Being on the inside isn't about how strong you can be or how physically strong you need to be. Yes, we want to be physically imposing. We want to be physically stronger than our opponent. Yes, of course. But what we don't want to do when we're up close is get into a tussle and get into a wrestling match with our opponent where we're both trying to push each other around, trying to dominate that space. Don't be afraid to just almost go passive. Let your opponent throw you around. Let them almost burn out their energy. Let them use that energy, and we can just change position, shoot a couple of little shots through the middle. Yes, again, don't be afraid to just take a half little step back, shoot some shots up the middle. If he's trying to wrestle you around, that's absolutely fine. Just go with him. Then pick your shot. Let him burn himself out. What you don't want to do is get yourself into that wrestling match, burn out all your energy. Then when the referee breaks you, you're too tired to go. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this issue of Corner Talk. And make sure you follow, make sure you like, subscribe for more.